maybe here?
No, it's better for you to be here.
Is it?
In front, and then we can just arrange this. Yeah.
All good. No worries.
Maybe water.
I should have some water.
Water without gas.
Yeah, a non-fuzzy water. Balkan, pretty much.
Yes.
Okay.
Serbia.
I've got a limited amount of
Time, so
no
let's go.
talent.
Yes. Let's go with the question.
Okay, so the question over there on the my far right, your guys' is far left, I'm guessing.
If you want, we can go.
So first impressions were kind of set up on that first day when we saw the two short films that they chose to show us as a company of viewers. And then when we also saw Kusturica's documentary-styled film. So first impression is that this is a space that is really striving to maintain authenticity in art and in filmmaking. And it's a space for creative people to gather and to be able to talk with each other as peers and as equals. That's really exciting. It's not really focused on a lot of the business and sort of publicity, this moment notwithstanding. Hence we don't have red carpets and billboards and things like that. So I've enjoyed it. The films are really impressive. I mean, first of all, many of them and most of them are student films, right? They're beautiful. There's a lot of really lovely cinematography coming in from all over the planet. There's some really fantastic and unique stories. I think we're going to have a challenging time in the jury to decide on which ones get the eggs. But it's nice. It's nice to see that as a creative. It's nice to know that there's filmmakers that are eventually going to be telling feature-length stories or, other sorts of stories that are that talented and sort of have a unique perspective on things. I think there's some exciting stuff that's coming out there. I'm gonna qualify it just a little bit by saying I think that what we're getting right now is a set of stories that are centered on a female character that are more complex. And that's what's interesting, actually, at the end of the day. It's not about a power structure necessarily for me. It's about are we showing a person who has all of the depths and complexities that a human being has, who just happens to be a woman. Because, for a while, women had a limited amount of the storytelling, and usually it was in service of another character, and it wasn't as heavily sort of balanced in that the woman's character would be the one on the adventure, would be the hero, or would be the protagonist. So now what we're seeing is more female characters being protagonists and showing all of the wonderful kind of colors. And what's cool, too, is we've gotten into a stage where we like anti-heroines, and anti-heroes, right? And I know that, The Sopranos was one realm where that kind of was specifically talked about, where everyone loved, in a way, and was kind of shocked by loving him, Tony Soprano, And then we have the Godfather films and so on, right? We have these characters who have done really horrible things that you find audiences root for. We are at a time where there are those sorts of characters being played by women, which is exciting, I think. That project and that character kind of set up a platform for me to be able to do things like this. I would never be invited to Kustendorf if that wasn't a part of my career, I met some amazing people in that project, and I got kind of introduced into the industry in a way that was a really wonderful foundation for my career. So absolutely. I mean, I get to do creative projects and travel all over the world because of having done that for 8 years, you know? So yeah. I just finished a World War II based feature in which I play a British spy mistress. It's based on a real character, a real person. Her name is Vera Atkins. And it's the story of 3 women who were responsible for the resistance movements in France. My character was based in England. She has, I mean, you guys will figure it out, but I'll just say it like this. She has a secret that she has to keep from the rest of the sort of spy group in order to save her family and save a certain group of people. But yeah, it's a really interesting kind of look at a part of history that maybe hasn't gotten that much attention. So I'm excited about that coming out. I've also just wrapped season 2 of my Amazon show called Imprensa. And we're actually, like, during the days, I'm going and looking at episodes and writing in notes with the other producers. So it's been a busy, like, week so far.
What is the title of the movie?
The movie is called, right now, it's called Liberté. They just decided on the title. And so when I go back to LA, there's a couple of things that I have to do before their lock picture. I am exposed to the talent in that part of the world and meeting other people, just coming to a festival like this and meeting other people that are in the northern part of the Balkans in general, that are a part of the filmmaking world and storytelling. So just kind of getting to know it. Here's the thing, when I was working on Imprensa in our first season, what we all kind of walked away with was, in Bulgaria, was that was a part of the world that filmed 300, all the 300s. They filmed The Expendables. So those may not be high art projects, but those are technically very complicated projects because action films are, right? And I found that my crew was phenomenal, and they went above and beyond. And I think that's kind of like a Balkan trait. There's this concept of zajednica or whatever it is, right? And there's this feeling that if you're a part of the group, if you're a part of the family, you do everything you can for that group. And I feel like I got that from the crew of people that I was working with over there. They just went above and beyond to try to tell the best story that they could. And it wasn't a day job. It wasn't something that they just like kind of clocked in and clocked out. People took pride in the work that they were doing. They took pride in creating a really interesting story together. And we created a bit of a family, you know. And I think that's a trait that's kind of common in this region, in this area. So what can I tell you about my parents? My parents are immigrants through Canada to the United States. Actually, my mom even further back through England to Canada to the United States. They left when they were in their teens from what was Yugoslavia at the time. And they built a life just by working really, really hard. And they taught us that work ethic. There are 6 children in my family. And I think what's extraordinary about coming from a family of immigrants is that, first of all, you know, we get the wonderful blessing of having a European sort of cultural heritage, and we also get the added blessing of having that sort of North American experience. And I think the combination of the two is a really rich experience, and it's something that I value. And then I think that, you know, they're just extraordinary people to be able to go to a country where they don't speak the language, where they don't necessarily have all of their family and friends at immediate call. I think they're really brave, extraordinary people, as any immigrant is at the end of the day. And then they raised us, you know, they gave us all an education. That's not a small thing, to raise 6 children and make sure that everyone traveled and that everyone has a good education. And I think my siblings are good people, you know, they're good humans, and to instill that sort of moral code, that's hats off to them. What's my usual day? I have a dog. Yeah, so, there's a bit of walking him around. It really depends, if I'm in, the outskirts of the city, then it's just hanging around a garden, reading, watching stuff, chatting with friends. It's super normal. LA can be really normal at the end of the day. No. But I don't even know what that means. I see myself as a person who's curious about life and about people, who likes storytelling, who loves working with creative people, who loves meeting and being inspired by creative people. Yesterday, I was at that concert, and we could find this anywhere. I was at the concert last night, and I was watching this guy just go nuts in the audience. And it was one of the best moments because I just sat there and just really embraced him in his totality, So sometimes I see myself as just a viewer, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's a terrible answer to your question. Please edit all of that out. Okay. I don't always do this. But this is my advice. When you're performing, leave your cell phone in the trailer. I'm not even joking. Because you have to stay so present. You have to stay engaged. As an actor, it's important, I think, and there's some other things too. I think it's important to know what the camera angles are. I think it's important to know as much as you can about the camera so that you can help fill the frame, you can help tell the story, you can help bounce the story to somebody else. There's a guy named Van Johnson who's an actor from the 50s and 40s and so on. He knew how to throw focus in the right direction to help tell the story. He would come in, he knew when the story was about his character, he knew when the story was about someone else's character. You're helping tell a story at the end of the day, right? And when we get to set, we need to stay as engaged as possible. There's so much information flying around, and it's important to keep our antennas way out there and pay attention. That's one. The other thing is learn as much as you can about life, about people, engage, get your fingers dirty, hang out with people, travel, read. I think the most interesting actors are the ones who have lived some life. I was on the red carpet with my mom once, and and we're walking, we're doing all the photos and stuff, and she leans over in the middle of it, and there's hundreds of photographers here, clicking away, and she's standing on the side with my publicist, and she goes, Stana, and I was like, what? And she goes, Ispravi se. Ma, I'm working here. So, yeah. I'm at the Kustendorf Film Festival. Do I have I love Emil Kusturica. I could tell you this, actually. This one nobody knows. Get your pens out. So in 2004 or 2005, I was an actor starting out, and I managed to scrape together some money, and I bought a ticket. I think a friend of mine was headed to Europe from Canada, and he called me up and he said, hey, do you want to come? There's room at the place that we're Airbnb-ing. And I was like, yeah. And I managed to get a ticket to France, to the south of France, for the Cannes Film Festival. And I was really excited about going to this film festival because I don't know how it translates into English. I think it's Life is a Miracle was playing. Yeah. And I was very excited about seeing Emil Kusturica's work there. And I don't know how I managed to even get a ticket to the premiere, but I did. And I walked up the red carpet and up the stairs and into the theater and watched this beautiful, heartfelt film that ultimately has this really kind of charmed and positive outlook on life, And at the end of it, the audience stood up and clapped. And we all turned around, and I saw him, off in the distance. It was a true privilege to actually be there and to manage to get a ticket. All of these wonderful, sort of accidents that happened to give me the gift of experiencing and being exposed to that moment, and to see how much that audience loved and respected Emir's work in its totality. I thought it was a really extraordinary moment just to witness from the side, especially with no pressure, I was just an audience member. I wasn't a part of anything over there. So